The third objective is very similar to the third chapter in Black Sea Incursion. There's two major differences. The first one is that instead of one objective being active at a time for you to defend, you have to defend both the north and the western side at once. Another change is that there is no SAM launchers. So while in normal BSI Spec Ops, you can use the SAM launchers to take out about 3/4 of the AC-130's health, this time around you have to do it on your own. The team composition this time around should focus a little bit more towards anti-air fighting, as you have to take out helicopters and the AC-130. Thus, you should have 2 or 3 main battle tanks and also 2 or 3 vehicles that can do anti-air. So preferably autocannons like T-15, BMPT, Hunter, Sphinx, GAU, etc. There should be 1 anti-air vehicle on each objective, together with at least 1 main battle tank. However, before the objectives in the north and west activate, you have to defend the center of the town. This can quite easily be done by a single person, so the rest can go and prepare themselves in their positions. Once the central cap is cleared out completely, the objectives to defend the north and west activate. At the same time, an artillery piece will spawn. Killing it isn't necessary to win, but it will save you quite a bit of pain, so I suggest doing it. A wave of helicopters will also spawn. Each wave of helicopters consists of 3 helicopters. They fire anti-tank guided missiles and will easily penetrate even main battle tanks and wreck your modules. Killing them is the anti-air vehicle's #1 priority at the moment. The main battle tanks should focus on surviving, contesting the capture points, and ideally destroying the enemies. In the western cap you can use the rock to contest the cap while also being relatively safe from ground targets, helicopters and artillery. With the northern cap, the main battle tank should use the satellite truck, as it will provide some good hard cover from artillery if it's not dead yet, and it also provides nice cover from enemy tanks. After that, the main job of everyone is to just stay alive, contest, destroy tanks, take out helicopters, etc. Occasionally, the AC-130 will fly over the battlefield. If possible, tanks should fire upon it just to shorten the battle, but it doesn't really matter all that much. What's more important is that the AC-130 will fire some autocannon and high explosive shells at people, and it will keep you spotted, so you should be a bit more careful when the AC-130 is in the air. With the western cap, you can see the T-15 here took out the artillery as well. It took him a bit longer because the artillery spot on the northern cap is pretty obvious and easy to find, while with the western cap point the artillery position is a lot less obvious, making it a lot harder to find and destroy.
Эй, Холдер! Зря ты сюда приехал. Дуглас, не вмешивайся. Теперь Магнус — наша забота. Ошибаешься. Он мой.
Depending on how quick you are with taking out the enemy tanks, you might actually kill everything with still a minute or minute and a half left on the clock. If that does happen, you don't have to worry about the game spawning in extra waves to fight you, so you're completely free to move into the middle of the map, as you see in the video, where the final phase of objective defending will begin. The main battle tanks can feel free to hang around on the objective area, while the T-15s should move onto the hillsides to the east of the objective, as the hillside provides good view over the battlefield, letting them provide better fire support and making the job of taking out the helicopters a lot easier. While you're waiting for the objective to begin, another wave of helicopters and an AC-130 flyover will begin. Take out the helicopters, do as much damage as you can to the AC-130 to save yourself some time later, and sit tight and wait basically. Once the final defend objective begins, an artillery piece will spawn on the hill across the valley, as you can see in the video. If you have good enough view range, you can actually spot it, otherwise you can just blind fire it, as you see in the video. Though I will mention that sometimes it seems to drive off the hill or slide off the hill, so that blind firing spot isn't 100% reliable. After that, it's really just business as usual. Some helicopters will spawn, which you should take out. A few waves of enemies will spawn from the rail yard below, driving up along the main road towards the objective. After a few waves, you'll see a pair of main battle tanks come at you from the direction where the UAV capture point would be on the Chapter 2 BSI Spec Ops map, kind of flanking you potentially, so just keep an eye on those two when they spawn. Oftentimes they just drive into or behind the satellite truck at the objective, so they're not actually nearly as dangerous as it might sound. Since we have a gap where I don't need to narrate stuff, I'll explain some quick things related to the guide. So the vehicles, the compositions, the strategies really we're talking about here are all made with a newer player, getting familiar with this heroic setup in mind. In reality, this is a guide, it's not a hard-coded rule set basically, so not running the same vehicle compositions or anything like that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong necessarily. Especially once you have a bit more practice in, there's absolutely no reason to not run various other tanks and compositions. For example, for me personally, I've done heroics multiple times now with the MGM, with the M113 Hellfire. I grinded my stock crab through heroics, which for people that don't know, the crab only comes with missiles and high explosive ammunition for the autocannon by default. It actually takes quite a long time to get armor piercing ammo for the autocannon, but we still did it fine that time. For example, it's a game mode that heavily relies on people doing their job and people communicating. Especially if you're a newer player, make sure to talk to more experienced players in your run and keep note of what they're doing, what they're telling you. Outside of the first time learning curve, heroics are actually really easy since they are platoon only and they never change really. Most runs tend to just go through the same set of motions. Now with that done, we've managed to destroy every single ground target, which causes the spawn of 3 lieutenants. They're the last ground targets on the map. Once you kill them, the defend point objective will be complete. After that, the last phase of the mission, shoot down Douglas O'Reilly, will begin. During the last phase, helicopters will continue to spawn in and should be taken care of. Douglas's AC-130 itself isn't particularly dangerous. The autocannon can only really damage very, very poorly armored vehicles. The high explosive shells from it are kind of annoying, but they're not a super big deal either. Helicopters are far more dangerous, for example. The main nuisance with the AC-130 is that it has an absurd amount of health. It has 100,000 health, and unlike in Spec Ops, you can't use surface-to-air missile sites to lower that health. So the last phase of Chapter 3 Heroics is you just shooting Douglas O'Reilly's plane for a few minutes until it goes down. After that, the mission's complete. Something to maybe keep in mind during the mission though, especially at the final section against the helicopter. If you run out of ammo, you can use the helicopters to suicide yourself and then respawn. Admittedly, respawning is a lot more expensive in Heroics. The first respawn for a tier 10 tank is 100,000 credits, and the second one I believe is 400,000 or 500,000. which sounds and is a lot, but you should also keep in mind that each mission in Heroix gives you a few million credits. In the video, all that's left is for our heroes to take out the AC-130. There's not really anything else left for me to say, so I'll see you all in chapter 4.
Браво! И что дальше, Холтер? Как по-твоему, зачем Себастьян отправил тебя в Тпарчеле? Ты обречен. Себастьян, значит. Ясно. Магнус, я не могу отменить операцию, но полчаса затишья тебе обеспечу. Постарайся уйти подальше.
У меня было всего два пути. Залечь на дно, как Кортес, или принять вызов и в одиночку выступить против всего мира.